got to get out and you've got to move and you've got to walk. And I couldn't do it.
If you could have been able to do that, could you have been elected at
Yes.
that point? So it wasn't that a woman could not be elected citywide to be mayor. It was just that you had a physical
It
ailment
isn't
at
that
time.
got beat. There's a difference between getting beat and losing. I lost the election because I could not campaign properly. No, because if I could have made, I lost just by so few votes. What happened was, and I lost in the primary. I did not lose in the general. I lost in the primary, and that was quite an unusual election.
You are Jewish.
Yes.
Did you feel any discrimination from that at any point while you were on the city council, while you were
Never.
involved in issues of that?
Never. In fact, when we were first meeting as a council member, as a council, a brand new council, 7 new council members, our council president was Bernie Simon, and we were deciding when to have our briefings. And they said, well, let's come on Saturday morning. And I said, well, I won't be there on Saturday, that's Sabbath. And Bernie looked at me and he said, oh, yes, all right, then we're going to meet on Tuesday mornings. I mean, it was that kind of respect. So if you say, was there any discrimination, I would say just the opposite.
You entertained the possibility of running for governor at one time.
I did.
But because you're Jewish, decided that that probably wouldn't.
I didn't decide, but I was advised that I could win the 1st district and I could win the 2nd district, but the 3rd district I could not even win. And when you can't win the 3rd district, you cannot.
And you couldn't win because?
Because there is a perception, because out in the western part of the state, there are very few, if any, Jewish people. And there was still a stigma because of the major faith out there. There was inbred in that faith a lot of anti-Semitism. A lot of anti-Semitism. And also they didn't know what Jews were.
And just weren't ready to vote.
No, and you see, there are so many, there was a large Jewish community in Lincoln and Hastings and Grand Island. There was, and of course in Omaha, but farther west than that, maybe there were a couple of families thither and yon.
You know, while you were on the city council, there were some issues that people probably will remember yet today. Give me those stories. One of them was the widening of 90th Street. I remember that because I covered it, but that was quite a...
That was one of the first contentious issues that we had to deal with. Of course, it was in my district, but everybody worked on it. We all knew that we needed a north-south corridor between 72nd and 90th.
Tell me what
90th
70th Street...
72nd, and there wasn't a really wide corridor past 72nd.
And 90th Street was just a kind of a, wasn't a cow path, but it wasn't very
It had macadam or blacktop. It was 2-lane. It had no sewers. It had drainage ditches, and the reason it was so contentious is because people had these beautiful, broad, wide lawns, but you got to understand those lawns were city easements. And then there was the worry about fast traffic, and I will tell you, and that they were going to lose their property, but it wasn't their property; it was the city's, and the city really needed that 90th Street corridor.
And you all supported it, and you got it.
Oh yeah, there was no problem.
Yeah. Another contentious issue for you was a group home.
Oh, by the way, I do have to tell you, that turned out beautifully. And one of the reasons it worked out well is because of our current sitting mayor, Jim Suttle, who was the head of the public
Well, he was in the planning department, right?
No, he
No.
wasn't in the planning department. He was in public, well, service, where they, streets, sewers, anything like that. And and he worked on that, and he did a heck of a good job.
Tell me about the group home.
Oh, the group home.
This, like this is a group home in
For-
West Omaha, if
All right.
you will.
Oh, well, now what happened, this is the first thing. This is a brand new idea in the state of Nebraska, that there was going to be a group home for mentally challenged adults, adult men. And it was going to be on, the first one was going to be on 90th Street. And it was going to be right near center. And it was a small house that they bought, and it was set back. It was a nice little home, and I think there were going to be about 5 men, that were going to get up in the morning, go to work. They had jobs for them, come home, have supper, watch television, play games, or anything. And this was going to go on day after day. They would not be in the community. They had their yard. They may be in the backyard and playing ball. I don't know. But it was a well-supervised, well-planned project. And I supported it, and there were other members of the councils that supported it, and others that didn't know. But they weren't really opposed, they just really didn't know. It was extremely contentious. Oh my gosh, we're going to have these men that don't know what they're doing, and they're going to urinate in the street, and they're going to be all over the place. They're going to rape our daughters. Don't ask. It was wild. It did pass the city council, and it was the first group home in the state of Nebraska. So we did get it done, and then of course there was another one done again in my district, and this was on 60th Street, right across the street from a grade school. You want to talk about contentious. That one was really bad.
Well, you supported that.
Of course I did. The idea of a group home at that was a wonderful idea. These were high-functioning, mentally challenged young men well, they were not really old chronologically, but let's say chronologically the youngest was probably 20, 21. And again, it was a matter of just getting up in the morning, getting dressed, eating, going to work, coming home, staying in their house, always well supervised, 24 hours, and to not do it would have been wrong.
Something else that happened during